Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, Ohio State has a noon game this weekend, and everybody hates it except for us, and we love it. It's great. I love a noon game. It means we get to go home and watch college football afterwards. I'm looking forward to it. Everyone else is miserable, but I'm happy, so that's really all that matters.
That is all that matters, Tom. As long as you are happy. I'm finally just actually thinking about that. Yeah, I get to come home and watch some football, try to get home for the Michigan-Nebraska game, which I think is going to be a fascinating one to watch. And I'm sure there's some other games on in the evening as well. I'm sure there will be some craziness, and it will be good to just be home on a Saturday night rather than some who knows where looking for a pizza place in New Jersey like last week. Driving around and, at least here, I know where all the pizza places are. And the thing I like about Ohio, pizza is so much better in Ohio than New York and New Jersey. Tom, let's get the show started. We're going to preview the weekend games this week, and I had to continue going on so that Tom would not interject there. That's actually a pretty good idea for the show as a whole. Just go right through it, roll right through that stop sign, and don't worry about the oncoming traffic. But Tom, it is the Red River Shootout weekend.
It's a rivalry now, sir.
No, not on this show. Well, actually, it is more of a rivalry than a shootout, considering the lack of offense from Oklahoma this season. So, Red River Rock Fight.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. This is an interesting one because Oklahoma is 5-0, and it's just like every week it's like, well, certainly they can't keep pulling this rabbit out of their hat, and then they keep pulling that rabbit out of their hat. And I don't really believe in Texas either. And it's like, this is one of those, like, it's 5-0 versus 4-1. Both teams are ranked. And it's like, well, someone has to win this, I guess. So that'll be interesting to see. I kind of want to pick neither of these teams because I really don't believe in either of them right now.
Yeah. The over under is 63.5 points. Feels kind of high, I guess, which is crazy to say with this rivalry. Texas is the 3.5 point underdog. They've lost 2 in a row in this series. The last 8 games, 6 of which have been won by Oklahoma. The last 8 games have been decided by 1 score. I feel like that's going to continue in this one. However, I almost said it. I almost said I'm feeling like Texas. I'm a little biased towards Bijan Robinson. Just give Bijan Robinson the ball. He's leading the Big 12 and rushing at like 130 per game, but in Big 12 play, that goes up to 175 yards per game. Now, that's only 2 games. Oklahoma has a very good defense. They've allowed 100 yards rushing exactly twice this season. Everything else has been under 100 yards. I feel like I wonder, Tom, is this Ohio State, Michigan, where whoever runs for the most wins, or is this series too wacky for that?
Yeah, this series is always a take the points series to me because you have enough crazy stuff happening and enough upsets happening that go ahead and take the points because you can't, there are no sure things here. So when there are no sure things, you take the points because sure, why not? Free points. And this is, not just 3.5. Like, Oklahoma kicks a field goal to win at the end of the game. Like, well, congratulations, your Texas bet cashed anyway. So, yeah, I'm interested to see Bijan Robinson because I don't really believe in that Texas passing game. They don't have the horses yet, basically, to me in that passing game. If Bijan Robinson can get loose, Texas has a decent chance here. Can Bijan Robinson get loose? Well, that's what I'm maybe most interested to see because I'm with you. Like he's a guy I love watching play, but it's like sometimes he explodes and has 280 yards, and sometimes it's just like he's little Barry Sanders-y, where you remember watching Barry Sanders and he would have these games where he'd run for 200 yards, and it looked like how does anyone ever tackle him? And then he'd go have 15 carries for 16 yards, and it's like how does anyone think this guy's good? Like he's not quite Barry Sanders-esque, but he has that kind of inconsistency right now, which isn't necessarily on him. That may be more about the rest of his teammates at Texas and what they can and can't sometimes do.
Arkansas held him to 69 yards rushing in their win over Texas. He'll need to do more than that against Oklahoma. I would like to take Texas, but I'm just also going to avoid it. Tom, let's move to the next noon game, which is Maryland at Ohio State. This could have been a matchup of top 25 teams. Maryland should have been ranked. If they would have been ranked if they had just a little bit more against Iowa, just a little bit more, another, say, 50 points.
4 or 5 fewer interceptions. That's it. Who just among us, Tony, has not thrown 5 too many interceptions in a game?
I speak for myself. I have not also done that. As
the Bible says, let he who has not thrown 5 interceptions cast the first stone directly to the other team. It's in the Bible. It's somewhere. It's like in the middle.
Tom, the over under on this one, 2.5 interceptions for Maryland. Where are you going?
2.5 interceptions from Maryland. That's an interesting one. Because we just did our bold prediction show, and I don't think neither of us picked an interception one, but that would have been. I feel like you're going to get a rebound from Tagovailoa this week. Like, you're getting the overreaction now that, this guy has thrown 5 interceptions and now he's a bum forever. That's when you come back and you have a good game and so I'll take the under just based on how these things generally work out. I
was going to go with the bold prediction of he will throw no interceptions.
Ooh,
but I didn't have the stones. So Ohio State is a 21-point favorite now, an over-under of 71, pretty high. I feel like Ohio State, the offense is going to continue clicking. This is all about, we're going to find out about the defense. We're finally going to get to see the defense. And, not that the Maryland is the best offense going, but it's the best test the Buckeyes have had since the Oregon game, which is how things are, how we're gauging this, how much growth. It looks like you've grown, but we'll know more. If you had an inkling, are you laying the points or are you taking them?
I think I'm laying the points. Well, I put it this way. I think Ohio State will have a 21-point lead at some point on Saturday. I don't know if Ohio State finishes with a 21-point lead, but I think Ohio State will. This seems like the Death Star is charging up now, and you don't want to be in the way of the Ohio State offense right now. Is kind of where I think, and Maryland's got an okay defense, but I don't think they're incredible. This feels like Ohio State is going to have a couple games in a row now where the opposing team has a decent enough defense, but just they can't keep up with Ohio State. I think Ohio State's just going to be scoring, unless Ohio State turns the ball over, Ohio State's going to have a pretty good size lead at some point in this one.
Yeah, I'm laying the points there as well. I could actually see this being a backdoor push late in the game. Tom, this is an interesting one to me as well. Michigan State, number 11, 5-0, 2-0 in conference at Rutgers. This is, to me, alert. Sparty, watch out. This is a Sparty no game. And if this is really a new program under Mel Tucker, this is one of those games where it seems simple. Hey, just don't trip up against Rutgers and we'll believe in you. Those two things should never be said. But still, this is Michigan State, and it's like, well, this is one of those games where you just be careful. Michigan is favored by 5.5, over under 50. Does Mel Tucker, do the players sit down and are they like, hey guys, this is a Sparty no game. We need to be ready. We need to be prepared. And let's just do our thing. And the Michigan State offense is good enough, and the defense has been playing well enough. I think what Rutgers doesn't really challenge anybody. It's just about execution, and can you out execute Rutgers, which most teams can. I'm hoping we don't see a Michigan State trip up here for oh gosh darn it. I thought they were better than this.
Yeah, the last 30 years of history in my brain is all just screaming at me like, have you heard how many people are saying, if Michigan and Michigan State just take care of business the next couple of weeks, it's going to be 7-0 versus 7-0. Let me tell you how that story ends 100% of the time for Sparty. No, that is not good. No, that is, as soon as you start believing in Sparty, that is when Sparty's and they'll trip up against Rutgers and then they'll ruin Michigan's season. That is the most Michigan State way this possibly could go. They have the next 2 weeks is at Rutgers, at Indiana. It's like, it feels like there's a 2% chance they get through those 2 games undefeated. But if they lose one, it's like a 98% chance they beat Michigan. That is just how Michigan State seasons go. This to me is just all about Michigan State's attitude? Does Michigan State look at the Rutgers film against Ohio State and go, these guys stink? Are they able to handle success? Because Rutgers it was very easy to take Rutgers seriously going into last week. Now, you've seen Rutgers just get completely annihilated. Can they take Rutgers seriously enough to handle their business? Because they're more talented. They should win this game. And then on the other side, can Greg Schiano pull Rutgers out of a ditch? Because they just got plowed right off the road last week. And can Greg Schiano kind of pull them out of the ditch and get them back? I feel like he's better at that than a lot of the guys who've been Rutgers head coaches over the years. So that's not, they're not as much of a lost cause as you might think. So yeah, this one's pretty intriguing to me. Rutgers getting 5.5. I think I'm taking the points because it feels like this is probably at least a close game. At least like the Michigan State, Nebraska kind of game where Michigan State wins, but it's close all the way through. That one went to overtime, but it's close all the way through. And, and then it goes to overtime, and then Michigan State wins with a touchdown, and Rutgers goes for it on fourth down and fails. And then even though it went to overtime, you lose your bet. Like that's exactly how this is going to go. Yeah,
I'm definitely taking the points. And if Michigan State wins by more, congratulations. Good job. Mm-hmm. That's a good win for you guys as you're building. Tom, the next one, I don't want to spend too much time on. It's number 13 Arkansas at number 17 Ole Miss. Both of these teams were exposed last week, but they're exposed by the two best teams in the nation. So how much do we write them off? They're both just have one loss, and neither are in the top 10, and both are in the SEC West. So it's like people have just like, well, you're done now. And maybe that's unfair because, as I said, their losses are good losses. I do wonder what happens now. The winner of this one, how high will they jump? Because it's going to be a quality-ish win, even though the second loss will hurt a little bit. But does Ole Miss is favored by 6 in this one? Like, I'm one of these teams. Obviously, they have to win, and they need to right the ship right away and get back to the way they do it. And I don't know which is easier for. Like, which coach is more equipped to do this? Lane Kiffin just seems like, it was Alabama. It's okay. Come on, guys, let's go have some fun. And the other, like Arkansas, is like so invested. So is it easier for them to bounce back? But then you have to bounce back against a quality team. So it's interesting. It's an interesting matchup. I can't predict either of these teams right now. I like Ole Miss because I had them on the over of their 8-game win total at the start of the season. But it could be a crazy game, or it could just be really ugly.
Yeah, Arkansas, I feel like Arkansas has got a pretty good defense. So, maybe they keep it close against Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think their defense last week really got exposed. It was, and the offense, that game ended up what 42-21 or 41-21 or something like that. It was like, yeah, that wasn't actually the game. The score you see at the end is not actually the game, because that was like 35-7 or something like that. Alabama, I think early in the third quarter, that one was over quickly, and then they kept playing basically. I feel like we don't know enough about these teams and how they're going to respond to a beating like that, because Arkansas was flying real high, and Ole Miss was too. You had swaggy Lane Kiffin back, and then swaggy Lane Kiffin got beat all about the face and head. So, how do they respond to that? Because these are not programs that you have this like long history of, like, a Nick Saban program, even after they lose, like they're going to come back and they're going to respond well. Ohio State generally responds well after a loss. I don't know that I believe in the Arkansas and or Ole Miss cultures enough to say, like, yeah, that is definitely a team that's going to handle a really humiliating loss well and bounce back and come back strong.
No, it's a mystery. We will find out more, obviously, this week for those who choose to watch it. I will not be able to watch it, unfortunately. I will be working. Tom, will you be watching the game?
Yeah, I'm also going to be working, as it turns out. I think we actually work together. I think that's actually how this.
I haven't seen you up in the press box. I don't know where you've been. Next game, the 3:30 kicks. Number 2 Georgia at number 18 Auburn. Georgia favored by, as I wrote this, it was 15. It may have already gone up to 15.5 by now. Auburn really, they are ranked, 22 now, or 18 rather. Their wins have not been great. They scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to win at LSU. Whatever. LSU is 3-2 on the season. We know they're not very good. So congrats on that. They lost to Penn State. They beat Georgia State 34-24. They have only looked really good against Akron and Alabama State or Alcorn State or AL State, whichever one that is. And so I'm not putting any faith in them. I think Georgia is going to completely shut them down, and it's going to be a matchup that I wonder how many Georgia fans have bought tickets for this. Like, is it going to be red in the fourth quarter? I'm guessing it'll be pretty red in the fourth quarter, as Auburn fans are just, they don't want to see this.
This is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And I mean, these are teams that play each other every year, and they've had some crazy games in the past. I mean, you can go back to some of those, the tipped pass games where the, shocking late season upsets and all that kind of stuff. This one just feels like I'm picking Georgia and I'm betting the under. Like until proven otherwise, it's Georgia and the under, because I don't completely believe in Auburn yet. I don't know that they've. I mean, is Bo Nix starting this game, or is what's his name, the LSU transfer? I mean, that's which of those guys are you picking against this Georgia defense? Because I think the answer is nope, no, thank you. Georgia minus whatever and under 47. Yep. Next.
Minus 46. We don't need to talk about Boise State at BYU. Just realize number 10 BYU is undefeated and hosting Boise State and only a 5.5 point favorite.
And that's Boise State's 2-3. I mean, this is not like a fantastic. This is Andy Avalos' first year, because Brian Harsin left Boise State to go coach Auburn, and it's like, yeah, those look like two first year coach programs. So, yep. Yeah,
and I don't think BYU can do enough at this point, even though they are ranked 10th. Nobody likes them, in terms of like, they're not blowing people away. Like, in the past, they've been like, I think it was Zach Wilson. It was like, man, would love to see him against this and that. And it's like this year, they're like, you're kind of in the way. Just move aside and let the big boys play. And they do have, I think, 7 Power 5 teams on their schedule this year. So it's not, it's better than Cincinnati's schedule ish. But I don't know that they're, I mean, yeah.
I mean, here, let's run through their schedule. Arizona, Utah, Arizona State. That's one. That's like, okay. USF at Utah State, Boise State at Baylor, at Washington State, Virginia, Idaho State, at Georgia Southern, and at USC. Like, I mean, that's like you're playing the bottom, the middle to bottom, like 40th percentile to 60th percentile of the Pac-12. Like, that doesn't really move the needle for me.
No, the Arizona State is probably as good as Notre Dame or Indiana for Cincinnati, though. And you've got a USC in there, and like, yeah, let's. I don't know, that pig, kind of hairy nosed, whereas this pig, the ears are kind of, we're judging pigs at this point, and neither of us are pork sellers. I am not. So, Tom, taking BYU, are you? Your favorite BYU team there?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, they're pretty good at home. They've got a pretty good offensive line. I will say that for them. Everyone I think assumed Zach Wilson leaves and then everything's going to fall in. Like, if Kalani Sitake can build get you pretty solid in the trenches. So I think I'd lean on the BYU offensive line and maybe probably lay those points, I would think.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a small line. That's something to keep an eye on. Let's go to the 4 p.m. kick, the biggest game of the weekend. Number 4, Penn State, 5-0 on the season, 2-0 in conference play. At number 3, Iowa, 5-0 on the season, 2-0 in conference play. Iowa, a 1.5 point favorite in this one. Me, personally, I think I am laying the points because I am a stupid believer in the Iowa defense. Penn State's offense is getting better, looking better. But, boy, if this is Iowa at night, forget about it. I'm definitely taking the Hawkeyes. this is a crazy series at times, but I feel like Iowa's defense is what it is. And against Penn State's offense, that's going to be good enough. Iowa somehow on offense gets just enough to get by. I think they throw for under 200 yards a game. They don't really run the ball that well. They get some turnovers. Can Sean Clifford not turn the ball over? I think he's been pretty good this season. If you don't give Iowa points, they're not going to score a lot. But I also think Iowa's defense is going to keep Penn State from doing a lot. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form these are two of the four best teams in the nation. I think both are there by default. They've won. They're there. They've looked okay, but talent-wise, no. And this is not going to be the over-under. 40.5. That is crazy to me, but I would lay the points. I'm taking Iowa in this one. I just their defense is just so solid that until somebody takes advantage of them, I'll just continue to ride with them at home.
And this series to me it always just comes down to where's the game? Okay, they're them, the home team. I'm taking them. Like Iowa at home is very different than Iowa on the road. Penn State at home is very different than Penn State on the road. Especially big game Penn State at home. They talk about the whiteout being worth typical home field advantage is 3. They talk about the whiteout being worth 5-6 points. Like, well, Iowa has that same kind of crazy home field advantage for whatever reason. I mean, it's a loud crowd. It's a good atmosphere, but it's not like insane. Iowa just kills people at home. I cannot explain it. I just don't question it. It's just like, okay, Iowa's at home. They're probably going to win. It's going to be gross. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be low scoring. I was with you. I was like, I don't know what the line, what the over under in this is, but I'd be on the under on this. And then you look at 40.5, like, whoa, that's about as low as you ever. I think I maybe saw 37.5, maybe once earlier this year, but it's like that's when it's, like youth flag football games over unders. Like that's just ridiculous. So yeah, no, don't wave your finger at me. I'm talking. Shh. Okay. Yeah. I don't think Penn State can run the ball against Iowa. So it's on Sean Clifford. Can Sean Clifford avoid interceptions or avoid turnovers? Does Penn State have enough offensive skill talent to take advantage of what is generally, it's not a fantastic Iowa defense. It's always like a very sound Iowa defense. And I think Iowa's going to be able to do just enough on offense. And like, this has 20-17 written all over it for me. And, it's just, I think Penn State has lost enough in Iowa City over the years, and I have not gone back and fact checked that. I'm just in my head remembering like Penn State losing a bunch of games at Iowa that were like they came in really good, and then like, Iowa just finds a way to win. It feels like it's going to be another one of those again, where Penn State's a pretty good team. They're neither of these teams would do well if they made the college football playoff because I don't think they have that level of talent, but they're both very good teams. Iowa at home all day long.
Would you like me to fact check this for you?
Yeah, please do.
Penn State has won the last 3 in Iowa.
Really?
Yeah, they've been playing. They won there in 2012. Then they've played every year since 2016, and they've won their last 3 trips to Iowa. Interestingly, Tom, maybe we see the game from 2004 where Iowa won 6-4.
The greatest game in college football history. Yes, go on.
Maybe something like that. But Iowa did win last year. Penn State has won 6 of 7 last year, breaking a 6-game winning streak against the Hawkeyes. I think this will be 2 in a row for the Hawkeyes. I think they're due, and just they're solid. And look, they just keep doing what they do, and nobody's stopping them yet. So let's run with that one. Tom, the biggest game, my favorite game, the game I'm looking forward to most, the 7:30 kick. Number 9, Michigan, 5-0 on the season, 2-0 in conference play at Nebraska. Huskers are 3-3 overall, 1-2 in conference play. Michigan is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. I need to go back and look to see how Michigan does as a favorite on the road. Maybe while you're talking, I can do that. But I like Nebraska. I'm picking Nebraska in this game. They ran the ball so well last week, over 400 yards against Northwestern, and just pounded them. And we're doing some triple option. Michigan has this defense that is built to kind of handle the spread and create some havoc against it. But let's see it, because Nebraska also ran the ball well up the middle. That's maybe where Michigan is soft. So let's see how they do faking up the middle, running out wide, and then also mixing in some RPOs and some play actions and testing that secondary. If Adrian Martinez doesn't have any turnovers, I think Nebraska wins by 10. Each turnover, take away 7 points. I think that's where I am right now. Just give Michigan 7 points or take it away from Nebraska for every turnover. If he plays well, like if he just plays safe, not safe, but because you need some plays out of him. If he doesn't turn it over, I like Nebraska. So I am taking Nebraska. I'll go ahead and I'll take those points. And I think this is an offense that is going to give Michigan trouble. Michigan's offense. Let's see how good Nebraska's defense is. It looks like it's pretty good. Did you know somebody tweeted this to me, and I don't know if it's true. I assume it is. We know Cade McNamara has never thrown an interception. He hasn't been sacked this year. He was never sacked last year either. He's never been sacked.
That's crazy. That's you wouldn't think a guy could get that far in his career without getting sacked. I thought you were about to swoop in and take the tweet that I was about to read, which is the 4 FBS schools who have not trailed this season: Alabama, Georgia, BYU, who we just talked about, and Michigan. Michigan has not trailed this season. You know, I am at this point, like, I don't completely believe in Michigan. I don't think Michigan is good enough to beat Ohio State this year, but I also don't really believe in Nebraska. Like, I kind of have to see it from Nebraska. They're a far better team this year. The defense is far better. They're starting to do less dumb stuff. Like they have just like self-destructed constantly in these losses. I just need to see them do it before I really, really believe in them. I'm with you. It seems like this is a game that Nebraska should have every opportunity to win. Can Adrian Martinez avoid turning the ball over? Can they avoid the stupid special teams mistakes? Can they avoid the stupid penalties that they always seem to commit when there's just a big, I go back to like that week 1 game where it's just the guy fields a punt at the 1 and then takes it into the end zone. And like you fielded a punt and ended up with a safety. Like that's the Scott Frost era to me. Like, come on, dude. Like just don't do literally the dumbest possible thing at this exact moment and you'll win. And somehow that has been too big of an ask. So I really want to believe in Nebraska. I think the Big Ten would be much better if Nebraska was like a great team. If you had like a really powerful Nebraska out west, I think that makes the Big Ten much more interesting. I really want it to happen. I like Nebraska fans a lot. Like I'm not willing to commit to them yet until I really see it. So
you have committed to Michigan.
I don't really believe in Michigan either. That's the thing. I don't love either of these teams. I think at some point, Michigan's going to fall behind. At some point, Cade McNamara is going to get sacked. He's going to throw an interception, and then what? And I feel like this is not the week that happens. That may be Michigan State in a few weeks. That could be the Penn State game. Like, it's going to happen at some point. And again, like you feel like as soon as things start swinging against Michigan, the roof falls in because that's sort of what happens with Michigan now under Jim Harbaugh. It hasn't happened yet. And they have not played a fantastic schedule yet. And I don't think they're playing a fantastic team this weekend. So I think they'll just, they'll be solid enough to get out of there with a win.
Okay. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this one. LSU 3-2 on the season at number 16, Kentucky 5-0. Kentucky should win this one, move to 6-0. Doesn't mean anything. They're not going anywhere. They still have to play Georgia. And then if they do beat Georgia, they would have to play Alabama. So just mentioning Kentucky, don't need to spend any time on them. Anything you wanted to say about ye old Wildcats?
Nope. I have no thoughts. I have less than no interest. Like that's just one of those programs. It's just like, well, if they're still unbeaten, that just means they haven't played anyone yet. So, exactly. and yes, I know they beat Florida. My position stands.
You're going to stick with that one, rightly so. And that takes us to the final game. Number 1, Alabama, 5-0 in the season, 2-0 in conference play. At number unranked, Texas A&M, 3-2 on the season, 0-2 in SEC play. Alabama is a 17.5-point favorite. And boy, I think the Texas A&M natives are getting a little bit restless. This was a game that we pointed at before the season, and we're like, hey, if Jimbo Fisher's put it all together and they have a quarterback, then watch out because the defense will be there. They got Isaiah Spiller. They've got talent. They've recruited well. And now they've lost consecutive games. They lost 2 weeks ago to Arkansas 20-10. Then they lose at home to Mississippi State 26-22 last week. And it's not a good loss. And now you are faced with Alabama coming in. And I don't care that it's at Texas A&M. It does nothing for me. This Aggie offense scoring 23 points a game. Sure, they're giving up 12.6, but that just means Alabama may beat them 31 to -7.
Okay, so Tony, I'm going to read you a headline. This is from exactly 1 month ago. Well, not exactly 1 month ago, but a little more than 1 month ago. This is after Jimbo Fisher signed a 4-year extension on his massive contract. He now has 10 years, more than $90 million left on the deal. Places him second nationally behind Alabama's Nick Saban as the highest paid coaches in college football. Texas Monthly had a headline that says, Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher is worth every penny of his new contract. Would you like to revisit that statement? Because it seems like if you're worth every penny and you have Texas A&M's resources, you shouldn't be losing to Mike Leach and Mississippi State. That seems like a thing you should not be doing. Texas A&M, like, if you go back through my search history and just my Twitter history and just search like me tweeting about Texas A&M, it's like once a year I just have this like completely exasperated tweet about Texas A&M about like, oh yes, I'm sure next year is the year when Texas A&M is absolutely going to be back. They are building something special in College Station, and it's just like, oh really, yeah, oh, wow, yet again it has failed to materialize. I'll be a monkey's uncle. I can't believe it. It hasn't materialized again. That's so strange. I'm sure it will be a quality win when Texas A&M is, every year it's just like Texas A&M is, oh, this is the year, and they're going to be a great challenge against out. No, it turns out they lose by 4 touchdowns to Alabama again. Like, yeah, whoa, what a surprise! But that never happens. They had Johnny Manziel. They had their season. Kevin Sumlin got paid, and then boom, and then it all blew up again. And like, sure, I mean, they will win some recruiting battles, and then they won't do anything. I mean, it's just like Texas and Texas A&M are just like, they hate each other so much, and it's like, no, but you don't see that you're the same program. It's like you have so much money, so much resources, and you in this perfect recruiting environment. And you just keep falling flat on your butts. Like, oh wow, what a surprise! Why don't you talk about how different you guys are?
Look at our mansions, and you're looking at it like you have hobos living in your mansions. Like, do you remember where Texas A&M started out the season ranked?
Were they 5th?
They were 6th, one spot behind Georgia. Now, to the voters' credit, Texas A&M did not have any first place votes. So good on them for having a little bit of self-control. And they were, yes, 6th in both polls, per usual. I'm guessing Tennessee, wow, surprisingly unranked. Maybe that's an error. Or maybe people have just finally caught on. And maybe that's where Texas A&M will be next year, where people are like, we've figured this out. We're not doing this anymore. Tom, anything else before we get out of here?
No, just wishing I was as pretend good at my job as Jimbo Fisher, so I could get $90-something million after, like, well, we almost beat. I mean, we came really close. Other than the one game against Alabama, we came really close last year. Like, okay, well, good. Congratulations. Enjoy your mansion.
It's unfortunate because that is a game we'll be home to see, and this is a game I was looking forward to seeing all year because this is. There aren't a lot of good SEC West games right now because the teams are down. And of course, this one is also not going to be all that great. Maybe something happens. We'll see. I'm hoping for it. But that will do it for today's show. Want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, you can find us at BuckeyeScoop.com. You can find a bunch of people at BuckeyeScoop.com. If you are not yet a member, please consider joining. If you are a member, thank you for that. You can continue to find shows like this one, Buckeye Weekly, every day. Morning Scoop every day. Tons of other streams and podcasts every day at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. So thank you all for tuning in. Have a good weekend. We will talk to you later.